This is the original eSport racing game. This is iRacing.
For the second to last round of the season, the IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge heads to Bowmanville, Ontario in Canada. The Canadian Tire Mosport Park will play host to round 11 here of this edition of RaceSpotTV Friday Prime Time on the iRacing Esports Network. I am Connery Medic. I am joined in this time around by Lorenzo Bonda. Hello everyone and welcome to the stream. And well, before we get ourselves going here, we can say thanks to Sven Balaful to his TV cameras. Hugo Luis is currently behind the cameras, and we have prepared a lap guide provided to us by VRS. Lorenzo, you're going to take us through it.
Absolutely. So starting the lap here at Mosport, you're going to see that you're basically going to commit coming into the main line, the main start-finish line already committing. Kind of a little bit of a late apex. You're coming out into turn one. Turn one is quite dangerous. You're going to be hugging that that curb right on the inside part down all the way down to the outside, and then coming down to turn number two. Turn number two is very tricky because it's basically a blind apex. You have to commit early, stick with that inside line, and use all the way down the track to the outside, and then already have that car parked on the left and bring it out for an early apex. Once again, open the hairpin, carry down all the way to the outside, use the curve for the exit, maximize the throttle on the exit, and then you're going to go for another downhill left hand turn and early braking and maximum braking. And as you carry through the hairpin, it's kind of like a U-turn hairpin, double apex. Early on the brake on the outside, use a little bit of the tarmac on the outside, and then it's the longest straight on the track as you come uphill into the final set of turns here at Mosport. And basically you're going to go into an early downshift coming into the second to last turn. Early commitment, hug that inside line all the time. You're already stick it in for the left hand turn. Commit also very hard into use the curb in the final turn. Very early apex and power it down on the brakes as we have a lap here brought to you by VRS at Mosport.
Martin Kroenke was piloting that particular lap, as he has been throughout this season, and we are getting ourselves set here towards the end of qualifying. Most of your runners have already come across the line, both instances to set their flying laps. It's Thomas Gibson, currently provisional pole position as it stands. We have a couple of drivers that might still be able to get themselves their laps in before this session draws itself to a close. You can see the car out there currently. That's Valentinas Makenkovas right now, the number 11 car, and their way through towards that final corner, turn 10. This is their first flying lap here, so let's see what they're able to do coming across the line. It's a 1:26.9 for Makenkovas, but the thing is, they do just have enough time, I believe, to get their lap in right at the end of this one. It's going to be very, very close then, though, so they might just fall short, but we'll have to follow this through.
Yeah, we're going to have to follow this through with Martin Kovas as he goes for the turn number 3. Going to stick it in a little bit of early to late apex, hug that inside part on the open hairpin, and he's going to be just on time. I think he's going to have around 3 to 2 seconds left on the session while he finishes his lap, Connery.
Yeah. 45 seconds as he heads his way up through turn 5, through turn 6, slowing that car down all the time. Make sure you nail the exit of turn 6 to give you the best speed coming down this long back straight. And while down in towards turn 8 is certainly one of the decent overtaking opportunities at this track. Well, another one is up in towards turn 5, but we've gone past that point already. But the driver from Central and Eastern Europe looking for the braking zone in towards turn 8. Keeping towards that left-hand edge of the track before you just whip yourself in on this very, very long turn 8 and then change direction into turn 9, coming towards the end of the lap here. 5 seconds remaining on the entry to turn 5, so as close as you like, heading their way across the line. Are they able to squeak it in? Doesn't look like they are, so just a 1 second before the start-finish line, and they're not able to get their lap in. But this is going to be your starting grid here for the penultimate race of the season. Thomas Gibson in pole position with Koen Klopman lining up on the front row next to him. Row 2 will consist of Kimmo Suominen and Kane Halliburton. P5 and P6, those go to David Perez and Alfonso Urita Mulas there. And we get Daniel Arujo and P8 going to Igor Sirikov. We've got Navarrete in P9 with Poldo Gomez, P10. Damon Harris in P11 with Marcel Druski in P12. We've got Alejandro Bentos, P13. Gunners Razgals in P14. Jonathan Poulet, P15. Lane O'Connor, P16 here today. Valentinas Marcinkovas, well, they were almost able to get their lap in right at the end there, but it wasn't to be. P17, so slowest of those drivers that did get a lap in, and 2 drivers that did not get themselves a qualifying lap set. That's Borja Garcia and Zoran Kordic right at the back of the field. We're just getting ourselves set for a full pace lap, which will be very, very welcome for these drivers, Lorenzo, considering it's a topic that we brought up throughout the entire season. The cold tires on the start here in the TCR cars on that new tire model is a big, big factor. So they'll have a full lap rather than about a third of a lap to be able to get some temperature in.
Yeah, they're going to be able to get some good temperature, and considering the track is also very hot right now, it is 42 degrees if I have to do my calculations correct. Temperature will be around 110, 12 Fahrenheit, so they will be able to get those tires quickly up to speed. But the problem will be with that very hot temperature on the track, that will be very hard to maintain that temperature up to an optimal level and make sure the car doesn't overdrive in the final few minutes of this race. So it will be a very complicated, it will be a very tricky race for those drivers, Connery.
Koen Klopman makes his way off the starting grid there, behind that Porsche 911 Cup car. Pace car, it's going to be RevMatch Esports pole position with Core Sim Racing P2. It's going to be another Core Sim Racing car in P3 as well, so that's Kimmo Suominen. So it's a very strong showing once again here for Core. We have an MSI car, that's David Perez in P5 as well. So a lot of some of the top teams in our racing are being represented here, we'll have to say, as these guys work on trying to, I'm not seeing as much weaving, but I'm seeing a lot of burnouts, and that's the best way to get temperature into the tires. The weaving doesn't really do all that much.
Yeah, the weaving doesn't do all that much, and I think historically it doesn't do that all that much in front-wheel drive cars. Basically, if you do something like that, it's just going to add more heat into the front tires, and you want basically all tires, especially the rear ones, which takes more time to actually build up heat into your Audi TCR. Yep. And so, yeah, burnouts are probably, and also one thing I would say, of course it's not going to happen over here, that is basically go full braking, and basically you should be able to get a 1 or 2 Celsius degrees onto that tire. So it's not going to happen, but still is a good technique.
As you can see, the field work through. This is coming down the back straight right now. You can see Koen Klopman and Thomas Gibson as your front 2 right now. Thomas Gibson pole position on the inside there for Core Sim Racing. So a little bit of a correction of the mistake as they moved off the grid there. That one's my bad. But Thomas Gibson, of course, has had plenty of comfortable races so far this season, but the thing is, things being a little bit tighter in qualifying this time around as Klopman gets himself relatively close in that one, just with coming in towards about a 1/10 of a second between those two guys in qualifying, and things seem to be relatively close further back as well. Somanen and Halliburton both within a 1/10 of a second of each other as well. Perez and Mulas, those are going to be close as well, but it's going to be an early go here for Thomas Gibson from pole position. He'll take the green flag here at Mosport as Koen Klopman gets shoved out to dry, coming down the pit straight. He's lost a couple of positions, loses yet more. David Perez has been able to work his way through up into P4, so Somanen P2, Halliburton P3. Perez is getting threatened now because Koen Klopman, he tries to recover the position from the horrible start. Door rubbing on the way down through turn 2 of Clayton's corner. Still side by side between MSI and Rev Match, then into turn 3 of Quebec corner. Perez has the inside line, the beneficial, the better line coming through that corner, but Klopman is still hanging it around the outside as these guys charge now down the hill through turn 4 into the big braking zone. The first big braking zone on this race stack of turn 5. Klopman has been able to secure the position, gets a bit of a slide on coming through the corner, but he's able to recover at least one position, but it's still too lost at the start for him.
Yeah, for now, he closed the door. Perez, I think, did the smart move and let Klopman just pass by. And now work the draft. You can basically work the draft here and coming up into turn 9 itself. Let's see if Perez is going to actually try to make a move on the outside. You can try to make a move on the outside, but the problem is making a mistake for the turn that is coming up right afterwards.
Yeah, absolutely coming towards the end of the lap here. Gibson's been able to get away well from the front of the field because basically everything happened behind him with Koen Klopman having a pretty bad start coming out of the final corner, but across the line, lap 1 complete as the front 3 drivers right now try to break away from the rest of the pack. You can see Gibson, Somanen, Halliburton, that is your top 3 heading their way through right now, keeping themselves close together for now, but Klopman and Perez, they're going to start worrying, even at this early stage, that they might just lose the leading 3 if they're not too careful.
Yeah, they need to be able to close down a little bit of that gap and make sure they are within draft reach from those 3 cars up ahead, because they broke off pretty easily at the very start of the race. Of course, we have to mention that the very start of the race was a little bit of attrition between all drivers, especially Klopman and Kane Halliburton and Kimo Suominen, and they basically went side to side, basically at the start of the race, nearly a tree wide, so Klopman had to back up. That's why he lost so many places and a lot of time.
Yeah, absolutely coming down that back straight then between turn 6, turn 7, excuse me, and turn 8. But Koen Klopman might just come under threat here down into turn 8. Perez seemingly not wanting to go for the move at this early stage, though. He knows how crucial it is that he doesn't really impede Klopman that much, because Klopman could still give him the opportunity to sort of drag him up towards that leading 3 cars. So he's just going to buy his time for now, but if they continue to lose time to Halliburton, that's when Perez might just decide to strike and try and get to the front of this train, and then he can go chasing for your race leaders instead. But on towards lap number 3 now, half a second between P1 and P2. It looks more like a second between P3 and P4, as you can see that separation.
Yeah, you can see the separation, but Klopman slowly then managing to chase away that disadvantage that he actually got from Halliburton, working bit by bit on the turns, but he's making good pace on those tires, which apparently are already up to temperature, even though we are basically 4 laps into this race. But as mentioned, the track is hot, so it's very easy to get those tires up to temperature. As Perez, big wiggle coming into the U-turn, Connery.
Yeah, a bit unstable coming into there, but he's able to gather it up in competent fashion. He's lost a little bit of time here to Koen Klopman, and that might result in Mulas having a bit of a look into turn 8. He's just sitting in the slipstream for now, just bringing that number 4 car ever closer, looking to strike on that MSI car perhaps, but staying in line for now once again. I just get the feeling that some of these cars are just biding their time for now, just sitting in the drafting train. But if any of these TCR races on that we broadcast are anything to go by, at some point the fireworks will start to be deployed.
Yeah, because if I'm not mistaken, on Zandvoort was basically at the very was from the end of the first half coming into the second half of this race. I believe it will be the same once the drivers basically are already analyzing what's their pace, what the other guys' pace, and can I actually be more aggressive in some of those turns and pressuring them into making a mistake. So I see naturally coming down. I think in the last five or six laps, they're basically going to just work the draft, stay calm, composed, not applying much pressure, and then all hell breaks loose.
As right now, it's been, apart from the very start of the race, it's been a pretty relaxed affair for most of your drivers out there. And I know the danger in saying that, considering as soon as I mention it, someone will have a bit of a moment, and it looks like it's happened instantly as Mules had a little bit of a slide coming up through turn 5 and turn 6, and Daniel Araujo then in that number 7 car, looking to track him down this back straight. Is he going to step out of line? Is he going to stay in line? That is the big question. It's going to be a move to the outside for the number 7. So we'll have a battle for P6 into turn number 8. Araujo deep around the outside. Has to get it as deep as possible to try and hold the inside coming up towards turn 9. And Araujo's been able to get that position complete. That was a great move there around the outside of 8.
Yeah, that was a really good move from Araujo coming into the second to last turn, and good on Mules to not try to, challenge for that position, because it could have gone very wrong for both drivers. Like I mentioned, you can be satisfied coming into the second set of turns into 9 and 10, but the problem is making that move on the outside coming to turn 11. It's very complicated. You need to have a deep set of cojones, like I would say, and trying to make that move sick. And there goes Mules again, because Araujo just ran way too wide and had a little bit of a wiggle.
Yeah, he's under threat now from Mules, trying to work his way through, but not going to happen coming through turn 4, that is for certain. But on the brakes now into turn 5. Oh, that's Navarrete. That's gone very deep there off the circuit as well. Ends up losing the position to Shurikov as well. So now he's been cycled all the way down to P9, but Navarrete a little bit of mistiming there on the brakes into turn 5. It just didn't get that car slowed down. That's just as simple as I can put it.
Yeah, as simple as you can put it, because I cannot put it in any better way, to be quite honest. Connery is just missing his braking point and nearly sent someone to the Shadow Realm, but luckily DeLucas just managed to narrowly avoid someone.
You can't draw references like that in this, but there we go. Right now onto lap number 6. The front of the field seemingly looking like basically the status quo will be maintained here. Thomas Gibson now has a half a second advantage over his teammate of Soivonen. Halliburton is keeping himself in touch, keeping himself in contention for those positions higher on the podium, though. So certainly keep an eye on him if he's able to do anything towards the middle and latter portions of this race. I'm just having a little bit of a look at the lap times out there right now, because Kane Halliburton last time around actually set the fastest lap of the race, and that will be helped somewhat by the double toe that he's getting off those 2 core sim racing cars, but still seemingly no slouch.
And seemingly no slouch, and De Perez nearly had a look on the inside of Klopman, but Klopman basically shutting down that corner, saying, "Oh no, you're not going to pass on that U-turn," and shuts down the MSI Esports driver pretty quickly.
Yeah, Perez, is he going to go for it this time into turn 8? Nope, he's just going left off, so he's being perhaps a little timid here when it comes to trying to get past Klopman. He's been in this position for basically since the start of the race, since Klopman had lost all of those positions. And Klopman, yes, in terms of lap times, he ran we'll get an update next time across the line here, a 1:25.014. Which is just, it's on pace of the leaders, but he's not really catching them. So maybe the longer Perez stays behind here, the less a chance that he will be able to catch up to those leading 3. But still plenty of time in this race, and still plenty of time for, the tyre management to go on, considering, that sort of situation here in these TCR cars. If you are able to conserve in the earlier laps, then you'll have a much better race car when it comes to those latter ones.
Yeah, because those tires basically take a beating when you come to the final stretch. because, you know, it is front end, and basically the front end of the car will be more spent than the rear tires. So the problem is that your grip's going to be heavily affected coming into the final maybe 10 or 8 laps of this race, especially with the weather, like I mentioned. The weather plays a big effect on these cars, so they have to pay every single moment of caution and make sure they don't overdrive those cars.
Battle for P6, Daniel Araujo and Alfonso Mulas. They've already had a duel so far this race, and they'll do so once again into turn 8. Araujo again having to defend this time around the outside instead of attack. Absolutely neck and neck coming up towards turn 9. Mulas, if he's able to hold the outside here, he has the inside line for the final turn. Still no driver giving an inch at this stage. They're basically equal across the line here onto lap 8. Araujo still on the outside for turn 1. Mulas will be able to get himself ahead by the time the exit of the corner arrives, but Araujo still looking aggressive. He won't be able to do anything for turn 2, but I wouldn't be surprised if he has another little go coming down towards maybe turn 5 and into turn 8 again.
Yeah, because we can see that Araujo is making a little bit of aggressive moves and aggressive lines, applying pressure on Mulas. But the problem is, if it keeps going like that, it basically let Igor Shirokov basically come from their rear, because he was around 7/10 of a second behind both drivers. And with that battles they had on turn 9, 10, and 11 allowed him to be on the back bumper of Araujo now and work that draft, and who knows, try to, you know, be more funny and try to make an aggressive move.
Absolutely. Not getting the greatest of runs out of turn 6 though. The draft will cancel that out somewhat, and he still perhaps has enough momentum to do anything, but he will lift out the throttle, and that allows Shirokov to gain on them quite significantly. So slightly different lines on the entry to turn 8 there, as Mulas felt that he needed to keep more towards the inside to try and starve off the move from those two drivers behind. But that's a big send in the background though. That's Navarrete down towards the inside and completely catching Shirokov napping here, and now Damien Harris looking to get himself involved as well through turn 1 this time around. But that was a big old dive from turn 8 that actually really paid off.
Yeah, it really paid off for Navarrete, and good move, to be quite honest, and good awareness of Shirokov to see the driver from the IMSA Esports coming out all the way from behind and make that and allowed him actually to have the apex to make the move and not endanger both cars. So good awareness both on the number 9 car and from Navarrete himself.
Yeah, so now as they head their way through turn 5, Navarrete, of course, you know, as a result of being, you know, making that move, going, you know, side by side isn't the fastest way around the racing circuit. It's probably one of your more obvious statements on make all day, but as a result, it has caused a little bit of separation inside of this pack right now. So Araujo was able to gap them a little bit here, but still within drafting range is Navarrete. So he still has a completely possible strategy here when it comes to the end of the race, when it comes to closing in on those two cars for P6 and P7. Still keeping an eye at the front of the field though, because now this leading trio is starting to bunch back up again, it seems, because that gap just a couple of laps ago between P1 and P2 was standing at about half a second, 0.6 of a second. Now it's down to 0.3 of a second between the two core sim racing teammates. So this has the potential to get very spicy very quickly. And you've also got Kane Halliburton third partying in this as well.
Yeah, but the problem for Halliburton is that he's basically working 2 core cars ahead of him. So he knows the Suominen won't let him pass so easily, and he will challenge for any spot whatsoever in the track to keep that second position for himself. So Halliburton basically got double duty job, and quite a big job, to be quite honest, for both racers, in the case of both racers.
Here we go. So, you know, this might be an absolutely titanic battle if we get a little bit later on in the race here. It might just be a little bit too early to start battling for these guys, especially considering Klopman and Perez are still sort of on the outside edges looking in about what was 1.5 seconds behind them right now. So if this trio really start going at it, then you can factor in P4, you can factor in P5 into the battle for the race lead, which is why they perhaps want to leave this as late as possible, so they can just scrap with it amongst themselves rather than just having to get everyone else and their mother getting involved in the racing right at the front. But still seemingly a calm affair towards the mid-pack as well. We had that duel between Mules and Arujo for P6 and 7, but that one has quietened down for now as well, as they've been able to gap the rest of their pack just a little bit. Giving a little bit of love towards the back of the field as well, because we have a bit of a train for P11, 12, and 13. So that is Gomez, Aragolis, and Jarutsky as well. So the 13, the 10, and the 12 looking relatively close here, as here we go. Oh, big move down the inside, but that was a bit cheeky there for that number 12, just moving Razgals out of the way through Quebec corner, turn 3. So that one, not exactly kosher.
Yeah, not a pretty move from Yorutsky, but still, it's a move nevertheless, and we've seen that move, to be quite honest, on TCR cars, not just over here in the iRacing service, but in the real life as well, because if you got the gap ball, trying to make the move, and fortunately for Razgals, basically managed to keep the car on track, didn't lost 2 places, but still within contention, about 1 second behind them, 1.3.
Yeah, that's one of the great things about these TCR cars, is they're so easy to save. Once they get in the slide, you just smash that throttle and bring that front end back around, and you're able to continue on your way. So that's why, you know, it's a lot more forgiving in terms of the contact, both in that respect and that the damage model on these cars is very forgiving. You know, you see some of these big shunts sometimes and you think, oh, they're going to really be hurting after that, but no, some of them can continue on like nothing has happened. But of course we know that the new damage model is modeled for these TCR cars, just not enabled, because we had that teaser, that trailer for the new damage model, of course. So hopefully that comes soon, but right now we're just having to deal with the old one. Battle for P4 though, because Klopman was relatively slow getting into turn 5 and turn 6, so this might give the opportunity to Perez, but on previous occasions he's been unwilling to go for this move, but not this time. So the MSI Esports driver around the outside of the Rev Match Esports driver into turn 8. Absolutely neck and neck as they hit the brakes into this corner. Klopman hanging around, trying to hang it through the inside. Perez is keeping himself close. Now the advantage switches one way and then back to the other as Perez tries to find a way through. A bit of a wider line through the final corner, almost pushing Klopman through the corner. Klopman, does he go defensive into turn 1? No, he just takes the normal racing line despite the margins being oh so slim. But Perez, maybe now he's tired of waiting around and waiting for them to catch those leading 3 cars. Now is go time for him.
Yeah, now it's go time for Perez, and the gap was actually stable between 1.2, 1.1 seconds, and you could see lap by lap, Klopman was actually catching up through the 3-0 bit by bit. It wasn't a big gain, but it was a gain nevertheless. But you know, you really want to move up the field, you got to make those moves soon, because we still have 12 minutes. It's around 10 more laps here in the track, 9 more laps in the track. So the drivers need to be a little bit more rush and, of course, safe in their movements. And Perez nearly made the move stick on turn 10, but it wasn't enough.
No, it simply wasn't. Is he having a look into turn 8 this time around? He does. Big old move to the outside, not alongside just yet, but he takes a bit of a wider line through the corner. That'll benefit him through the middle, of course, but he's still not quite getting himself close enough to be alongside. But it's a good couple of corners there for Perez as he draws himself ever closer, still riding the back bumper out of turn 10. Klopman just shaking in his boots right now as Perez heads his way down the inside. Attempted inside move at turn 1. He only has a bit of space to work with, but he's able to wrestle his way side by side, coming down through turn 2 now. Around the outside for Perez, still slight advantage coming through this section for Klopman. You can see they rub doors, they trade paint off the corner. Perez has been able to squeak his way through towards turn 3, but I don't think this one is done. Klopman will have a better run off the corner and might have a little bit of a look into turn 4, into turn 5. He's certainly going to go for it. Here we go. These two dueling Audis now will hit the brakes into turn 5. Perez still holding on to the position that he has now gained, and has now gained pretty securely.
Yeah, but here comes Klopman again, coming up into turn 7. Just holds that outside line. Let's see if he's actually going to have a run coming into turn 8. And so far, still keeping around 2.2 seconds. That's not what he wants. He should have been around 1/10 of a second if he actually wanted to make a move coming into turn 9.
Here we go. It's a big move towards the outside for Klopman this time, as now he's the man that has to be on the offensive and try to find a way past that in an MSI esports car, but not going to happen through the final sector this time around. And this might just be the prelude, with around about 10 minutes remaining, to what might happen at the front of the field, because those guys have been relatively calm and collected so far. But you know, when it gets towards the end of the race, maybe drivers will start to get a little bit more aggressive, start looking to work their way past, and those drivers that have been sort of been at 80% so far this race, their tires will start to come good.
Yeah, they start coming good. If we were talking a little bit about aggressive, what about P6, P7, and PA? Daniel Araújo just basically now capturing the position back from Afonso Mulas, and Navarrete nearly having a look at it, just taking the opportunity, a little bit opportunistic, and but unfortunately for the MSI driver, he didn't have any room for him to move, and Araújo now trying to break himself from the pack.
Yeah. The Mulas then down the inside at turn 6, because Araújo made a bit of a mistake coming through that sequence of corners, but Araújo will get the traction off the corner thanks to the slightly wider line. Mulas now has to look ahead and behind, so eyes on the front and back of his head right now, because Navarrete is working his way through as well. 3 cars in close proximity as they head themselves down towards turn 8 here. Navarrete has absolutely no way through on this one. It's a roadblock of 2 Audis right ahead of him. Mulas, big old move around the outside, so deep, able to hold position in towards turn 9 as Araújo, a big run on the outside there, and now he has the inside for the final corner. Is he able to get the traction down? He is. So Araújo able to keep himself ahead, but you can see the move there from Mulas. Navarrete had to take avoiding action coming down the pit straight. Navarrete down the inside then, almost moving Mulas out of the way there through the middle of the corner. Now on the entry towards turn 6, Navarrete still has a bit of work to do here. If he's able to get past, you can't track out too much there. The grass is so close to the edge of the circuit, but look at the run that he's been able to get. Brilliant stuff for the number 8 driver. He moves himself up 1 spot. Mulas almost shows him the bumper, but he knows when he's beat.
He knows when he's beat, and that allowed Damon Harris and Igor Shidorov to come in from all the way from the back. They were nearly a second behind them, and now instead of a 3-way battle, it has become a fatal 4-way. So now all drivers are within position to try to make a few moves, and I know Damon Harris, he wants to make that move, and he probably will after turn 8.
Well, there we go. The battle's starting to happen now with 10 minutes left remaining in this race. I'm just waiting for that top 3 gaggle to have a bit of a scrap here. Kane Halliburton might be the driver that has to start it, though, unless Soimonen does want to get aggressive with his teammate. You can see how close close Halliburton, is following to the back bumper of Soimonen, as now through that very long turn 1. All of these corners in this first sector are so long, but Halliburton now, he's positioning himself. This is just the classic aggressive positioning. You can see the body language of the number 6 car just dragging itself to that back bumper. You know, any mistake right now from Soimonen, and Halliburton is instantly there.
Yeah, Soimonen now needs to know he cannot afford to make any mistakes, and Halliburton is already hungry. You can see him applying pressure left and right, not giving one room to breathe for Soimonen. And I think Soimonen is already aware of that as well, because he's trying to gun for that first place. It might not seem like it, but he actually is gunning for that first place as well, Connery.
Yeah, certainly seems to be the case, but you know, Halliburton, he has 2 very quick course sim racing drivers to be able to get past here in that Racecraft Esports car. It took me a while to try and find the name of the livery on the car itself, but here we go. Soimonen, oh, he had a slight opportunity to try and bring it side by side with his teammate there into turn 8, bringing things so close, absolutely nose to tail through turn 8 that time around. But with around 6 minutes remaining, it's going to be about 5 laps as they head their way across the line now. I'm just having a look back as there's side by side between Araujo and the car of Navarrete here. Dueling coming through those final couple of corners. Navarrete, he gets up over the curb and he's going to lose a little bit of speed. And here comes Mulas, big shot to the back bumpers. Just try and get Navarrete to get a move on here. Down in towards turn 1. Araujo, is he able to hold on that longer distance around the racing circuit? He is just quite still. Absolutely nothing to separate them into turn 2. Navarrete still trying to find a line. He's gotten the massive run off the corner before he gets squeezed out onto the grass, and he's able to recover things back onto the grey stuff. Mulas has now gotten himself involved around the outside at that corner, but he's going to lose a little bit of speed off of this one. Navarrete, somehow he's still in this fight despite getting shoved that far wide.
Nice from Navarrete. Basically, all seemed lost for the MSI Esports drive. Oh, big move and big contact.
Yeah, big contact there into turn 5 and turn 6. There's no love lost between these two, it seems, but they're all okay. They all keep going. It's just Navarrete that has been able to gain the position here as these guys, Mulas now going side by side with the driver of Araujo coming down to turn 8. Well, the car at the front is giving him the draft and keeping him in contention here through the long right-hander. Araujo again having to hang it around the outside. He's been one of the better drivers at doing so, though, so he is able to hold on by the time turn 9 and turn 10 arrive. But this pack has been just absolutely stellar with some of the battles. It's not been it's not been fair in some occasions. There's been some door rubbing, there's been some bumper banging, but you have to come to expect that sometimes in these touring cars.
Yeah, you have to expect from these touring cars, but it has, as you said, it could have been might be a little bit scrappy, but still good racing from all of these street drivers. And don't forget, there are still true drivers, Damian Harris and Igor Shirokov, all the way as kind of like underdogs coming all the way on the rear bumpers. Right now, Damian is around half a second from Mulas, as Mulas tried to make a move coming into turn 6. And turn 7, but it couldn't stick all the way side to side from Araujo.
Yeah, so Araujo just still holding on. He's been at the front of this train for quite a while, but now he's starting to lose time a little bit to Navarrete. He's been able to pull out a 7/10 of a second advantage over the rest of that pack, so he has to run for the hills now and hope that Mulas just slows Araujo down a little more, and he looks like he will do so with a move down the inside at turn 8. Needs to be a bit late on the brakes here, almost hitting the brakes at the exact same time here, so Araujo will be able to hold on despite the compromised line, but it is still going to lose him time, and time that he cannot afford to lose to Navarrete.
I cannot afford to lose time to Navarrete, and once again Araujo just using that curb on the inside. If you use that curb, you expect to lose a little bit of speed, and Mulas just did use the curb a little bit better than Araujo and try to make a move in turn 1, but just couldn't stick it, and now he's gonna work all the way down coming into turn 2.
Yeah, Araujo still keeping himself ahead. Navarrete has been able to gap the rest of these guys. Mulas, very good run out of turn 2 that time around. I'm keeping half an eye on that battle for the race lead just in case anything happens between those 3 cars. But it looks like Halliburton has lost quite a bit of time here, so he will be dropping back off of this one. Mulas and Harris just almost having a little bit of a tangle there into turn 4 and turn 5. But it seems like mid-pack is going to be where it is at least for one of your final battles. It's just going to be Gibson versus Soimonen for the race lead for now, because Halliburton has lost a lot of time. So unless he's able to make this back over the final sector and this final lap, then it will be all for nothing. Let's see.
Yeah, all for nothing. But basically coming into turn 9, Halliburton managed to snatch away a 3/10 differential from Kimmo Suominen. So he basically was from 0.7 all the way down to 0.4. But he just overcommitting to the turns. It's very easy to overcommit from turn 8 to turn 9 to turn 10, and that's what he did. That's why he lost that gap that he actually earned all the way down to 0.6.
They crossed the line with, well, it being very close to being this final lap, and it's very close to it being another lap. So this is going to be crazy stuff. So looks like, you know, if these guys go a bit quick, this is going to be the final lap, and then if it's well, it's going to be one of those ways around. But still, there we go. You can't be thinking about that if you're Thomas Gibson or Suominen at this stage. You know it's going to be marginal at the end, whether this is going to be the final lap or not. My timing screen is saying that this is the final lap, but it could still go either way in this situation. Suominen, he's lost a lot of speed though, coming through turn 5 and turn 6 here, so this might not be the move into turn 8 this time around, unless he's able to go for an almighty send down the inside line, but it's not going to happen for him. 10 seconds left remaining on the clock as they head their way through turn 9 and up towards turn 10. Will the race end here or not? 2 seconds remaining, 1 second remaining across the line. I don't think I see that checkered flag out, Lorenzo. We're going one more.
We're going one more. Yeah, absolutely. That's what we want. Let's go. One more lap here into the Mosport. And does Kimmo Suominen commit and tries to make the move? What do you think, Connery? Would you do it?
I mean, there's nothing really to lose here. This is not like an organized league. It's not a you know, a sports car open or a new endurance series or anything like that. This
Look
is
at ratings.
The I rating. I mean, these guys have enough I rating already. They're number 1 and number 2 in the session. So might as well just go for it. Just have a little bit of fun here towards the end. But Suominen still has a decent gap to try and make up. It's a better turn 5 and turn 6 for him though. So this basically has to be the do or die moment here into turn 8. You can see that Gibson very, very wide actually, and he will lose a little bit of speed there. You can see that draft coming into effect for Suominen. Does he decide to send the almighty dive bomb on his teammate? Looks like it's going to be happening side by side in towards turn 8. Suominen's a little bit tentative though, but that might be his undoing as Gibson leads this race through the final couple of corners. Can Suominen do anything for the final one? I don't think so. So an unexpected final lap, and Thomas Gibson will win here for Core Sim Racing. It's a Core P1 and P2. But wow, that was getting very interesting towards the end there. We'll see side by side for P7 and P8 between Araujo and Mulas. A little bit of a tangle coming through turn 9. Turn 10, Mulas can't do anything to try and recover position, so Araujo will steal that one away from him. But oh my word, we almost had a crazy grandstand finish.
Yeah, we nearly had a crazy finish over here at Mosport. And Mosport being showing up once again, why is one of the favorite tracks for all iRacers, because I haven't seen, I'll be quite honest, I haven't seen a race where in Mosport it would be dull, because it is always close, you know. There's always battle for positions all the way down from the start to finish. So once again, these drivers showing a lot of skill, and unfortunate for David Perez, because on the second to last lap he was having a really good run, but run so wide into turn 7 and 8 and allowed Kloppen to actually knock that 4th place out of him.
Well, there we go. Here are your official race results at Mosport for the penultimate round of the IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge. It looks a little bit like this. Thomas Gibson in, well, with the race win by 0.5 of a second over Kimmo Suominen. Kane Halliburton, he kept himself close basically throughout the race, apart from those final 2 or 3 laps. A bit of a mistake for, you know, resulting in him falling a bit behind, 0.7 of a second behind your race leader. Koen Kloppman, though, well, able to get a P4 after a horrendous start, but he would have been looking for a little bit more after starting on the very front row of this race. David Perez, he will finish exactly where he started in P6. Lucas Navarrete in P6. We've got Daniel Araujo holding on to P7 there when all is said and done. Alfonso Mulas P8, Damien Harris P9, Igor Shirikov in the top 10. Coldo Gonzalez Gomez in P11 with Marcel Jarutsky in P12. We've got Gunas Rezgals in P13, Valentinas Makinkovas in P14 with Alejandro Bentos in P15, Jonathan Poulet P16, Lane O'Connor P17, and your two drivers that didn't qualify will actually finish the last and second to last, so that is P18 and P19 for Zoran Kordic and Borja Garcia. So that is going to be the end of the racing here today, but it's not the end of our lovely voices. So join us for the post-race show in just a couple of moments' time. Another exciting TCR race in the IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge on RaceSpotTV and on the iRacing Esports Network. Friday prime time, well, starting to draw itself to a close here for this particular season. We just have one more race to go of this series, the finale at Phillip Island in just 1 week's time. But we just have a little bit of time here just to go over what we have seen throughout this race. And Lorenzo, it's the first time you've commentated on this particular series, I believe. Yep. And well, now you are, shown what we've been used to for the past around about 11 weeks. It's been really, really fun.
It's been really, really, really fun, and I like I mentioned, I can't find a dull race in these cars. They are so close, and the gap has been so, not the gap, but the driver level has been so tremendous, and everybody seems ready and roaring to go. So I'm really, really happy that I was able to actually commentate a race like this and let the last round come, because Phillip Island, I'll be quite honest, of course, is a track that is a little bit lengthier than Mosport per se, but if you look at the track layout, it's just the same as Mosport. It has so much sweeping fast bends and change of elevations and turns that it will be basically what I think a very very equal race over here, to be quite honest, Connery.
I basically want to broadcast this series until the end of time because it's always delivered in terms of the racing. I think there's only been sort of one or two maybe races this season which has fallen short of the mark. But when you're having the vast majority of races be this exciting, then I certainly wouldn't complain if we get more of it here on the RSC Esports Network. But of course, coming into Phillip Island, you quite rightfully mentioned, quite similar to this track in many respects with those medium to high speed corners, but it's a little bit varied in different ways as well because you do have a couple more heavy braking zones to actually encourage more side-by-side action, at least start the side-by-side action, whereas here it seems to, well, at least in the early stages of the race, it seemingly struggled to get it started because there was no absolutely obvious opportunities, but once you get the side-by-side going here, it just seemingly never ends.
And because the track is so wide, to be quite honest, is unusually wide for cars that are like, touring cars like this. So it provides the perfect amount of racing per battle, rate, if you have to say something like that. So it allows drivers to be more aggressive, but of course, since it is a technical track, it isn't it isn't a long track. They have to find the perfect spot, and once you find the perfect spot, man, it is just top tier racing at this Canadian track.
Yep, it is. I haven't really had that many boring races at this racetrack either. But that is going to be all that we have time for here on RaceSpotTV. We didn't get any driver interviews, which is unfortunate. The drivers know where we are. Of course, it just seemed like they're not talkative this time around. But thank you guys very much for joining us on the stream. Chat was relatively active this time around. But, well, join us same place, same time next week, where we have the finale at Phillip Island. I've been Connery Maddock. That's been Lorenzo Bonda as my co-commentator here today. Hugo Luis behind the scenes, and we'll see you guys next time.